I'm going to have ask Chris Smith, Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey. He's coming up from the audience. Chris Smith, come on down. All right, this is what you get with live TV. All right, Chris Smith is one of the. You're neck and neck for the longest-serving member of the House at present, right?
Same,
and he
years.
has 45 years, and some say that he's a case for not term limits because he has been championing for the unborn and for the persecuted worldwide all those 45 years. And just give Chris Smith a round of applause. Today he chaired a subcommittee hearing on Sudan. If there is any time, in fact, I was thinking about this as I was sitting there testifying, Chris. I testified once before in your committee on Sudan when Mariam Ibrahim had been sentenced to death and was in prison.
And you helped get her out.
Well, it was the platform that you provided through that subcommittee that helped do that. So anyway, welcome to the program. Always great to have you on the program.
It's great to be here.
Let's talk about today's hearing with Sudan and regarding Sudan and what's happening there.
Well, again, I want to thank you for you're talking to a man who is a force in Washington. You have made such a difference in FRC, but you have to lead. When you talk, we listen, and you've been outspoken about Sudan, Nigeria, and the fact that more Christians are being slaughtered there than anywhere else in the world. China incarcerates more, mistreats more. They don't kill as many. Nigeria, they're being killed, and it is an existential threat that's happening. And the president has, as you know, labeled them a CPC country, and you headed up the Religious Freedom Commission, so you know how important that is. And you're calling for that for Sudan as well, and I think that's extremely important. But we got to stop the fighting. I mean, there's a bloodletting that's going on that's reminiscent of Darfur back in in the early 2000s. And you remember all of that. I went to Darfur. Sam Brownback, who also testified with you today, was the first, and Frank Wolf, the first member of Congress anywhere, any country, to go to Darfur, and they raised the alarm bells back in 2004. I went in 2005, and you meet the most wonderful people. Many are Christian, some are Muslim, but they're non-radical Muslims. But the Christians are just full of love and compassion. They're leaders, whether it be evangelical or Catholic. They're all, they're courageous beyond words. And now they're being slaughtered again.
I want to key off that word that you just said, again.
Again. Right.
And I brought this up at the very end of my testimony today, is that this is a cycle.
Yes.
We're seeing this over and over again. It's systemic in that there is an underlying issue there when we look at Sudan, and Sudan's not alone in this, but it's the absence of civil government, and in particular, and this is something near and dear to your heart because you were a major author of the 1998 International Religious Freedom Act, you and Frank Wolf, that did that. It was a recognition that you really can't have stability and economic strength without religious freedom. And that's now been proven through the studies again and again.
Without a doubt. And you have spoken about that so many times, that if you want to have peace and freedom and prosperity, permit religious freedom, let it be robust, let it be so that people can practice their faith as they see fit. And, Christians will thrive. And unfortunately, like the early Christians in Sudan and Nigeria, they're like the Christians in the catacombs, being hunted down and in many cases through sophisticated weaponry, killed in horrible ways. The women are raped. And I just can't get over how evil it is, and it's going on as we meet.
There's some similarities here to what you have been advocating for and raising attention to with Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority, funded by the United States, not right now, but in times past, in the education of the children. I mean, this is generational. When I was in Sudan 5 years ago, I met with the Minister of Education, and that was one of the things we looked at was their educational material, and it was very similar to what the Palestinian Authority had been doing to radicalize the children. And so if we're going to deal with these problems, yes, we've got to address the humanitarian crisis at the moment, but if we don't deal with the underlying issues, we're going to be right back here 15, 20 years from now.
I love South Pacific, the Rodgers and Hammerstein
Oh, I love the
musical.
music.
And there's a song in there, "You've Got to Be Taught," and it's about teaching prejudice and hatred. That's exactly what the PLA has done. Hamas has done it even more so for decades, and we funded it. As Americans, we funded the UN Works Relief Agency. More than half of their funding came from us, and I've had hearings on the textbooks. They are anti-Christian, anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, anti-American, and we're funding it. And I offered an amendment 20 years ago to defund UNRWA. And it passed the House, and the Senate wouldn't take it up, so it continued unabated. I met with their leaders. They always have this dog and pony show, nice bullets that the K Street works up for them, and it all sounds, oh, what are you talking about? They're educational. They're into humanitarianism. Nothing could be further from the truth. They teach kids from this, 4 years old, certainly kindergarten on, how to hate. And when October 7th occurred, it was a manifestation, the bitter fruit of that hatred blossoming as they're slaughtering and killing and raping, killing little children, because they're Jewish. And Hamas, and this is what's happening with the jihadists all over Africa. It's all about hatred, first towards Christians, because we're the infidels, and we need to be killed or converted. You had him too. A man that I met in an IDP camp in Nigeria, in Jos. Boko Haram broke into his home, took him out into the street, put an AK-47 to his head, and said, "You convert right now, or I'll blow your brains out." He says, "I'm ready to meet my Lord." And they pulled the trigger and left him badly scarred. That's not uncommon.
Right.
They're forced conversions.
I was reminded that similarities in the hearing today when there was testimony given about the recording of what the Janjaweed their modern equivalent, what they're doing over there. They're recording this and they're posting this.
I know.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
And that's exactly what Hamas did.
It is.
I saw those recordings, and it turns your stomach. There's no horror movie that even comes close to the reality of what you're watching there. And it's quickly forgotten. The UN glosses it all over. They have all kinds of anti-Semites at the UN Human Rights Council, at the UN itself, in the high bureaucracy. And even one woman who I met, who she watched as her son killed, was thrown into a back of a van and carted off by the Hamas people, and she wanted to meet, and I was in Geneva at the time at a conference with Gutierrez, the UN Secretary General. I called him. I said, "Will you at least meet with this woman? You're making the investigation of what Hamas did so narrow that you're going to just say, oh, a few people did it, all things right, Nothing could be further from the truth. It is absolutely pervasive in the jihadist mentality, and it is growing, and it's here. We have people, look at 9/11. They were, some of that came out of New Jersey in terms of the radicalism, and they hate us. And we got to realize, we got to love them, but we got to fight them.
Congressman, we have just a little over 30 seconds left. Sure. I want to get you to tell our audience how we need to be praying for the persecuted around the globe. We're talking about Sudan. We've got Nigeria. There's so many
China.
Different places.
All the places. It's communism and jihadism that are the two greatest threats currently, and there are others, to our faith and to our fellow believers. And we have to stand up. I read a book in my first term in 1981 called Tortured for Christ by Richard Warmbrand. You read it. Yeah. Frank Wolf read it. We all read it. And it was the moment. It's like, stop enabling atheistic communism who doesn't dislike us as Christians. They hate us.
They have to remove us.
They have to remove us. That's right.
Congressman Chris Smith, I want to thank you for all the work.
Well, thank you for testifying. You did, as always, a great job. But even more importantly, day to day, you are really a force, and we all count on you.
Well, thank you so much. Congressman Chris Smith from New Jersey, a stalwart for the persecuted and the unborn.